My name is Matt Gonzalez. I'm Ralph Nader's vice presidential running mate. I want to begin my remarks in response to tonight's vice presidential debate by commenting on the exclusion of other vice presidential candidates from this debate. These debates are operated by not an independent debate commission, but rather a private corporation with leadership from the Democratic and Republican parties, who in effect have no interest in opening up this debate to a wider spectrum of ideas. These candidates debate without having to face Green Party, Libertarian, Independent, and Constitutional Party candidates. The first part of the debate was dominated by a discussion of deregulation, with the Democrats blaming the Republicans for the problem on Wall Street. The only problem is it's really the fault of both parties that got us to where we are right now. Deregulation, as it relates to this Wall Street crisis, can be tied back to 1999 when Bill Clinton signed into law a compromise bill called the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act that essentially undid some of the protections that we had coming out of the stock market crash of 1929. Although these laws had been in place for decades, they were dismantled by both parties who were eager to see the free market run itself. Both of these political parties are now trying to bail themselves out in what they're calling a rescue package. It's not a problem of just the Republican Party, and it's extremely misleading to only have a debate between these two parties and exclude voices that would tell the American people who's to blame for this crisis. In this case, Joe Biden's remarks during the debate are quite true. He says the past is the prologue, and for this economic crisis in Wall Street, the past, where the two parties both helped dismantle important regulations, is the prologue for the problem that we're now trying to find our way out of. I also feel strongly that the positions articulated by both candidates to repudiate openly gay marriage, all the while trying to suggest that full rights could be afforded to gay couples without the sanctioning of marriage by the state. Unfortunately, Joe Biden agreed with her, and I think, again, it's another place in this debate where other voices would have been arguing that if you're going to afford full rights, then you also have to allow loving couples to be able to express themselves in a marriage because of what that means traditionally and the way that the state would be sanctioning those unions. There isn't a surrogate for that. You can't just say, well, we'll give you all the rights, but we're not going to let you use the title. Concerning energy policy, Governor Palin attacked Senator Biden for Barack Obama's support of the Energy Policy Act of 2005. She's right. He voted for a law at a time the oil companies, including ExxonMobil, were making record profits that had greater tax breaks and subsidies for fossil fuel production. It also had over $4 billion in tax breaks for the nuclear industry. Mike McIntyre wrote in the New York Times in February of this year that Senator Obama had withdrawn legislation that would have created regulations on the nuclear industry after receiving over $250,000 in campaign contributions from industry executives. Concerning clean coal, efforts to extract it out of the ground have continued to be inefficient and dirty, and of course the burning of coal is always going to be dirty. It might be a bit more efficient, but calling it clean coal suggests that we're achieving some kind of alternative energy like wind or solar. It's simply not true. Concerning Israel, I thought both candidates were fighting with one another to express the greater support for Israel. And although they were willing to give lip service to the idea of a two-state solution, they wouldn't define what that meant. Joe Biden did not repudiate Senator Obama's previous remarks that Jerusalem would belong to Israel, and neither of them called for the 1967 borders. Joe Biden has previously even gone so far as to call himself a Zionist. Governor Palin tonight said that she would be open to other vice presidential debates. Well, I accept her challenge and would gladly debate her and Senator Biden and any other candidate running for this office. I would have enjoyed debating her on the subject of offshore drilling. There is no way that drilling off the coast of the United States is going to have any appreciable impact on oil prices in the near future. Concerning Joe Biden, I would have challenged him on the fact that he supported the Iraq war from the beginning. He's voted for war appropriations since that time. He voted for the Patriot Act reauthorization. And quite disturbingly, as a senator from Delaware, he's run interference for credit card companies and helped support the bankruptcy bill that even Bill Clinton vetoed and that he successfully joined Republicans with in order to get passed once George Bush became president. And of course, I would have wanted to ask him about his support for the federal sentencing guidelines in the 1980s that he says he is no longer in support of, but has never done anything to fix the disproportionate impact those laws have had on African Americans and Latinos. Don't reward these two parties by voting for their candidates. If you want a more democratic and egalitarian society, then you have to support the candidates that are fighting for you and the issues you care about, whether it be ending the war in Iraq, restoring civil liberties, getting health care for all Americans. These issues have to be on the table. The Nader-Gonzalez ticket puts them on the table, and we need your support. Interestingly enough, Joe Biden himself, when he ran as a candidate for the Democratic nomination, never had polling numbers as strong as Ralph Nader does today, and yet he was allowed into numerous debates against his colleagues in the Democratic Party.